At a cookout in 1976, the same uncle stood at the same grill for 6 straight hours and would not let another man touch it. He had a folding chair he never sat in, a beer he never finished. The kids ran through the smoke in packs. The aunties ran the kitchen like a second government. At a card table, grown men slammed spades like the rent was due. It happened every 4th of July until somewhere along the way, it mostly stopped. We grew up in something most kids will never get to have. Not because of money. Most of us did not have it because of people. Adults everywhere claiming us, kin or not, feeding us, correcting us, counting us present. The whole yard was one living thing. The grown folks built one perfect afternoon out of a hard week and a thin budget. It looked like fun, and it was, but underneath was a village doing the most serious work there is. Number 15 is a sound. One sound. The second I describe it, you are 8 years old again, standing in a yard full of smoke. Number 8 is the rule nobody ever said out loud that decided who ate first, and it told you everything about how that family was built. And number 3, the one that ran from sunup to fireworks and turned strangers' kids into your cousins, is something no child alive today gets to do. We did it without knowing how lucky we were. These 25 things were never just about a grill and some good food. They were about a whole people remembering, for one afternoon a summer, exactly who they belonged to. A lot of those cookouts got smaller. We are going to remember them out loud. Hit that subscribe button. Let's count down 25 things that happened at every Black 4th of July cookout in the 1970s. Number 25, the drum grill. Somebody's uncle built a cooker out of a steel drum, and it ran all day. A half barrel on welded legs. You smelled it before you turned the corner. The coals went in before most folks woke. That grill was not bought. It was made by a man's own hands out of what was lying around. The homemade drum smoker came up from the south. It was not just a grill, it was a man feeding a block off something he built. Number 24, the uncle who owned the grill. One man ran it all day, and no other man touched it. He stood 6 hours in the heat, a chair he never sat in. You did not ask him for a hot dog early. That post was the one place all week a tired man was the authority. The grill man held a real and honored role, a job and a throne at once. He was not just cooking, he was holding the center of the whole afternoon. Number 23, the cooler full of glass bottles. A metal cooler sat in the shade, packed with ice and pop. You reached into water so cold it hurt, fishing for your bottle. You did not waste one. That cooler was a small luxury in a careful budget. A whole case of cold pop for one good day. The iced cooler of bottled pop was a cookout staple before cans took over. It was not just a drink. It was the one day the cooler was full and yours. Number 22, the folding card table. Somebody dragged it to the middle of the yard, and the afternoon organized itself around it. A wobble in one leg everybody knew. A bed sheet over the top. That table was where the grown folks set the week down and let the day take over. The folding table was the gravity of the gathering, and every family owned one. It was not just furniture. It was the table the whole day was built around. Number 21, the spades table. There was always a game going, and the grown folks played like the rent was due. The cards came down hard enough to jump the table. The talk sounded like a fight and was pure joy. That table was where they put the week down. Spades held a particular place in Black social life, passed down at every table. It looked like a card game. It was grown folks putting the hard week down. Number 20, dominoes. At another table, the bones came out, and they came down loud. You heard the slam before you saw the play. A man stood all the way up to set a tile. That game was how the men talked without talking. Dominoes ran deep in black gathering life, the slam of the bone its own language. It was not just a game. It was grown men saying everything sideways. Number 19, the aunties running the kitchen. The men had the grill. The aunties had everything else. They had been cooking since before sunup. Somebody was always stirring, fussing, sending a child back out. Nobody was in charge, and all of them were. That kitchen was the engine of the day, run by women whose work went unthanked. The kitchen, as a women's domain, ran the food of the whole gathering. It was not just cooking, it was a second government feeding the yard. Pattern break, emotional monologue. Here is what nobody warns you about. The cookout does not announce that it is the last big one. The crowd thins 1 year at a time. One cousin moved away, one uncle passed. The grill man is gone now. The yard where you ran through the smoke belongs to people who never knew you. We did not lose it in one event. We lost it in 1,000 quiet ones, while we moved away for the better job in the better neighborhood. And a child stopped belonging to a whole yard of people at once. We cannot drive back into that afternoon, but we can remember it out loud, so the kids coming up know it was real. Number 18, potato salad politics. There were 3 bowls on the table, and you knew which one you could trust. You learned young whose you ate and whose you walked past. Word got around if somebody's was off. That bowl was a woman's standing made plain. Pride you could taste, and everybody knew the ranking. The seriousness around potato salad was real, a running matter of honor at every gathering. It was not just a side dish. It was a reputation you could put a fork in. Number 17, the red drink. There was always a pitcher or cooler of something red, and the kids lived off it. Nobody asked the flavor. It was red, it was sweet, and every child had a red ring around their mouth. That drink kept a whole yard of children happy for pennies. The big batch red drink was near universal, remembered by color before flavor. It was not just a drink, it was summer poured out by the gallon. Number 16, foil pans everywhere. The whole spread came in disposable aluminum, edge to edge. They covered every surface, foil pulled back halfway. The half-full ones got sent home. Everybody brought one, and the table filled itself. The aluminum pan was the workhorse of the potluck cookout. It was not just a pan, it was everybody bringing their part to the table. Number 15, the speaker in the window. Here is the sound. The second you hear it, you are 8 again. Somebody ran a cord out and set a speaker in the window, or backed a car up, doors open, radio going. You knew every word before you understood one. That music was the heartbeat of the afternoon, tying grown folks and children into one moving thing. Music at the cookout was its own institution, shared across the neighborhood. That sound was not background. It was the whole yard moving as one. Number 14, watermelon on ice. There was a melon cooling all day, and when it got cut, the kids came running. It sat in a tub of ice until somebody split it open on the table. The juice ran to your elbow. That melon was a shared thing. Cut for everybody, handed around, a small cold mercy in the heat. The iced watermelon was a genuine beloved memory, shared across the gathering. It was not just fruit. It was the whole yard cooling off at once. Number 13, kids running through the smoke. The children moved through that yard in one loud pack all day. You ran front to back and around again. You cut through the smoke and somebody hollered. You were filthy by 2 and nobody cared. That running was 100 small lessons in being part of a group. The pack of running children was the natural state of the gathering. It was not just playing, it was a pack of kids raising each other for a day. Number 12, the hose. Nobody had a pool, nobody needed one. There was a hose. When the heat got high enough, somebody turned it on. You ran through it in your clothes and dried in 10 minutes flat. That hose was how a child cooled off on a hot day. Free and better than anything bought. Backyard water play with a hose was a near universal summer memory. It was not just water, it was the cheapest happiness a hot day ever made. Number 11, the lawn chairs. The grown folks brought out the folding chairs and set a perimeter around the afternoon, the webbed aluminum kind, faded green and white, with the strap that pinched your leg. The elders held the best shade. Those chairs were where a tired generation finally rested, watching the children they fed. The aluminum lawn chair was the seat of the cookout, held all day. It was not just a chair. It was a hard week, finally getting to sit down. Pattern break. Modern comparison. In 1977, a child at a cookout greeted 30 grown people by name, got a plate handed to him by an auntie who knew his mother, and ran in a pack of kids, half of whom were not his blood. Today, a kid scrolls through a party in his own house. A stranger drops the food on the porch, and nobody says a word. We call that convenience. But look what got cut. The greeting, the names, the plate handed over, the face. We removed every person a child used to belong to on the way through the yard, and wondered why kids feel so alone. Number 10, the cousins you only saw here. There was a whole set of children you only saw at the cookout, and by sundown they were family. You did not know their last names. You met them at noon, were inseparable by dark. And next, fourth picked up right where you left off. Those cousins were proof of how wide a family ran, past blood, past address. The web of cousins and play cousins was real and enormous. It was not just kids in a yard. It was a family too big to count. Number 9, going to speak. Before you could run off and play, you spoke to every grown person there. Your mother caught you by the arm. You hugged the aunties, spoke to the men, kissed the cheek of an elder you saw once a year. That round was home training in action. A child learning grown folks were greeted first, always. The rule to greet every adult was firm in black home training. It was not just manners. It was a child learning who he belonged to. Number 8, who ate first. Here is the rule nobody said out loud. The elders ate first, then the grown folks, then the children. You did not fix a plate before your grandmother had hers. The oldest was served and settled before a child touched a thing. That order was respect made into a meal. The family laid out plate by plate. Serving elders first was a deep rule of the black table. Age honored before appetite. It was not just a line for food. It was a family showing who it honored. Number 7, one bathroom, shoes at the door. The whole cookout ran through one bathroom, and you took your shoes off to use it. There was a line down the hall. You did not track the yard through the clean front room. The good furniture stayed off limits, even on a holiday. That one bathroom was where the outside day met the inside rules. The inside rules held. The cookout that ran through one carefully kept home was the common arrangement. It was not just a bathroom line. It was the house holding its standards. Number 6, sparklers and bottle rockets. When the light went, the fireworks came out, and the yard turned its face to the sky. You held a sparkler at arm's length. The older kids set off the loud ones in the street. You wrote your name in the dark and watched it vanish. That last hour was the children trusted with a little danger under the eyes of the yard. Backyard and street fireworks were the heart of the 4th. Modest, homemade, full of wonder. It was not just fireworks, it was a whole yard looking up together. Pattern break. Research reveal. Researchers who study childhood keep reaching the same conclusion. What made kids resilient was not enrichment programs or screens or scheduled activities. It was unstructured outdoor play, a dense web of trusted adults, and the freedom to roam and solve their own problems. In other words, the cookout, a yard full of watching aunties, and a whole afternoon with no plan. The finding modern science keeps reaching is the one our grandmothers reached without a study. A child surrounded by a whole community grows up steadier than one raised by a schedule. They were not behind the times. They were ahead of the research. Number 5, the plate made for you. Somebody fixed you a plate before you knew you were hungry. You came in out of breath, and there it was, handed over by an auntie who knew you did not like your foods touching, and made it the way you liked. That plate was love that paid attention. A grown woman who tracked one running child in a yard full of them. The auntie who fixed a plate just so was a tender figure at every gathering. It was not just a plate. It was somebody loving you in the details. Number 4, leftovers sent home. Nobody left empty-handed. The day ended with foil pans pressed into your hands at the door. The aunties would not hear no. A little of this, a little of that, covered tight for the car. You ate that cookout again on Tuesday. Those leftovers were the day refusing to end, so nobody went home with nothing. Sending guests home with food was a firm law of black hospitality. It was not just leftovers. It was the cookout following you home. Number 3, the whole day outside. The one that ran from sunup to fireworks and turned strangers' kids into your cousins. You got there in the morning and did not come in until dark. A whole day with a pack of kids, half not related, and all of them family by dusk. No schedule, no screen. What it gave you was 100 relationships no adult arranged. A day so full you can still feel the length of it. The all-day free-range gathering was the defining shape of the cookout, the belonging experts now envy. It was not just a long day. It was a whole childhood folded into one afternoon. Number 2, the elders holding court. In the best chairs, in the shade, sat the oldest people there. The whole day bent toward them. They did not run, did not cook, did not chase a thing. They were brought plates. They were brought babies to hold. Those elders were the reason the day existed, the ones who carried the family this far. Honoring the eldest was a cornerstone of the culture. It was not just old folks in chairs. It was the family honoring who got them there. Number 1, everybody ate. That is it. That is the whole thing. And it is the one we miss most. It did not matter whose child you were or whether anybody expected you. A plate appeared. You sat down. You were fed like kin, because for that afternoon you were. The pot was always big enough, and if it wasn't, somebody stretched it. That open table rested on the village underneath it. A whole people had decided no child of theirs went hungry in their yard. There is always room, and there is always a plate. That was the deepest rule we had. It was not just a meal, it was a whole people saying, with food, that you belonged to them. A kid at that cookout did not know he was at the center of something he would spend the rest of his life trying to get back to. He just knew there was smoke and music and cousins and a plate with his name on it the second he was hungry. None of it needed money. We were not rich, a lot of us the opposite, but we were not poor in the ways that break a child, because we had a yard full of people who claimed us and a table that always had a plate. Behind all of it were grown people doing quiet, endless work. The uncle at that grill for 6 hours. The elders who showed up just to be counted present. They built one perfect afternoon out of a hard week every summer like it was nothing. It was not nothing, it was everything. The cookouts are smaller now, and some of those chairs are empty. But the thing those cookouts did, making a child feel like he belonged to a whole people at once, is not gone. It is just waiting on us to fire the grill back up.